All right, we are back for stage one, part two of Trauma Boss, everything you need to know about healing your trauma. So in this session, we are focusing on regulating your nervous system, okay? So I just want to remind you at the beginning of the session that, we're going to cover some topics, right? We're talking about trauma. So at any point, you might find you open your heart and maybe you get an emotional overwhelm. You can absolutely just take a pause, take a breather, take a break, come back, okay? So the other thing I want to remind you is just to let the concepts, we're going to cover a lot of information. So let the concepts wash over you. Focus on what resonates with you, okay? Don't try to focus on learning every little thing. Focus on what resonates and build from there. So here we go. I'm going to share the screen and we're going to get going. So, okay. So we gravitate towards wellness. This is what I really want you to understand, right? Like the seed of an oak contains the blueprint to grow into a healthy oak tree. Our nervous system holds the key to our natural ability to grow into our healthiest self. So let's talk about nervous system dysregulation. Okay, look over here at the slide. This is your nervous system. Literally, that's your nervous system. And the metaphor that I love is the comparison of the roots of a tree. They look like roots of a tree. And so this is your nervous system. You could think of it as the root of your experience of being a human. So literally, your nervous system informs your reality. And you start to understand why when you see just sort of how big it is. Here it is again. Right? So your nervous system informs your reality through your senses. It's gathering information about the world. It impacts the way that we think. So the impact of a dysregulated nervous system on your well-being. I love this quote. The only thing more exhausting than having a mental illness is pretending you don't. So the impact of a dysregulated nervous system, right? Mental health, we get depression, we get panic disorders, we get anxiety, we get mood swings, we get chronic fatigue, we get personality disorders, we get dissociative disorders, we get PTSD, we get substance abuse. Physical health, we get irritable bowel syndrome, we get obesity, we get heartburn, we get diabetes, unhealthy heart rate, chronic inflammation, adrenal fatigue, insomnia, and more. So we are all a little broken, but last time I checked, broken crayons still color the same. This is the idea, right? Your nervous system has got some healing to do. It doesn't mean that you can't live your life, and experience things well, okay? So dysregulation versus regulation. Dysregulation interrupts that normal functioning of your nervous system, okay? So regulation restores the normal balance function of your nervous system. You want to get back to homeostasis. And remember, we're going to talk more about how all of this informs the way that you think, because that's important as well. But we just really want to slow things down and introduce these concepts one at a time so that you can let them wash over you and digest them as best as you can. So what causes nervous system dysregulation? I love this slide. It's so funny, right? You've been awfully tense lately. They say petting a cat is a great way to relieve stress. Look at the fish. He's like, I'm a fish, right? So what causes nervous system dysregulation? Stress. Safety needs not being met. Trauma. Adverse childhood experiences, right? So the good news is that you absolutely can heal your nervous system, okay? So this presentation can help you learn how. Yeah. Cute, right? We're going to do skill building through movement, breath work, mindfulness, and self-compassion. These are the sort of the interventions. As a therapist, we live in the land of interventions. So there's things that you need to do, right? And that's why I was saying this course is for someone who's looking for gentle ways to shift their life by small things that they can do every day. So we want to help you find your way. right? As therapists, that's our goal. We want to help you find your unique way to heal. So you're the key to solving the mystery of healing from your past. And I just really want to thank you for letting me be with you on the journey. It's so exciting for me. So do you see animals or humans when you look at this? First, right? I love it. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? Famous quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer. So consider your own nervous system responses. I'm sure you're thinking about that by now. And this would be a moment where you could reflect in the workbook or in your journal, press pause if you wanted to. So we're going to make some notes to self here on your nervous system. This is another example of it, right? So our nervous system interacts with our endocrine system. Oh, what's our endocrine system? The endocrine system is in charge of the neurotransmitters, right? And neurotransmitters are sort of what go in between. This is going to get nerdy. I warned you, right? Neurotransmitters are how our body speaks to itself, kind of. It's how information is processed, right? So the neurotransmitters are how the nervous system turns information into information for the brain. So neurotransmitters also are the things that you get when you take medication, psychopharmaceuticals, right? So I just wanted to make that point, right? And we're going to talk more about that in session 2, but this is just a note to self, right? Your nervous system interacts with your endocrine system, right? And your endocrine system is the spot that makes up, the dopamine, the serotonin, all of those things. So another note to self, right? This is again, the nervous system. I love Willem Dafoe, something of an alien myself, right? You look at the nervous system and with the eyes intact in your brain and you think, holy smokes, right? That's me. So all of the information from your nervous system, all of that gangly information that's coming through actually goes through into the middle of your brain. So again, this is going to be important in session 2, but I just wanted to kind of make that note to self. So for those of you who are on medication, right? Medication can help, right? It can be like glasses for your brain, can help you see more clearly. You can help you more easily shift your thinking to a positive place. The circumstances don't change, but how you see and experience it does, at least when your medication is right, okay? So this is nervous system regulation. The medication can actually regulate your nervous system. That's what it's doing, right? It's like your body isn't providing the neurotransmitters that it needs to because your nervous system is dysregulated. So you're getting the neurotransmitters that you need to balance yourself out. So it's like a top-down kind of response to a bottom-down situation. So disorders in mental health, right, are actually disorders in your nervous system. So I like this quote, right? If you take medication for that, you'll be on medication all your life. He's like, yeah, and bro, I already put on my glasses every morning. It's like it's a condition of mine, not a side hobby I'm pursuing irresponsibly, right? So for some of my clients, the medication, you have bipolar, OCD, there's things that absolutely schizophrenia, that you can really benefit from with medication, a major depressive disorder, a persistent major depressive disorder with suicidal ideation. Come on. Absolutely take your meds. Don't be a hero. Okay. So I like this. I'm loving the idea of medications for mental illness are just like glasses for your brain. And if you've been on medication for 5 or 7 years and say you've made a life transition, like maybe you were a teenager when you first got on your meds and you're in your mid-20s and you're on your medication, or maybe mid-20s, now you're in your late 30s or late 30s, you get the point, right? Absolutely have a med review. Talk to your doctor. If your meds aren't doing what they're supposed to, some people are like, no, these meds work for me and I'm sticking with them. I respect them. But it's also important to know medication is supposed to help. Okay. So you're not just taking medication and then not having any impact. It's supposed to be helping. Okay. So psychologists love charts, and we are, like I said, it's a science, right? So we like to chart our research. So this chart is talking about a regulated brain, okay? So a regulated brain is in that average intensity zone, the orange, right? That's the optimal condition to change behavior or put things in perspective. And that's what medication can do, is it can help bring you into that average intensity zone when you have too much either weakness, depression, right? Or overwhelmed by emotion, anxiety, right? So either one of those, when you're in the red or when you're in the yellow, you want to bring yourself into that orange zone. So consider dysregulation in your own life, right? And this would be another point where you could stop, press pause, get out your journal if you wanted to, or make some notes in the workbook. So we're going to talk about a regulated nervous system, okay? So you literally can change your brain, neuroplasticity session 3, by regulating your nervous system, right? And this is the key to healing PTSD, anxiety, depression, OCD, BPD, trauma, all of it, right? We are not necessarily looking for that cathartic reliving of the experience. I mean, absolutely, there can be some body work where you're having, anyway, I'm getting into some therapeutic jargon for you, but I'm just trying to say, like, you don't have to have a deep dig and tell me every bad thing that ever happened to heal from that trauma. You don't have to revisit it. You can focus on healing your nervous system and shifting your thoughts and your beliefs. And that's what is so amazing about this idea of a gentle way to heal from trauma. I just love it. And the thing is I'm not just, I mean, I have great success with this in my practice with clients. I'll run 100, 150 people through my caseload in a year, and they're all having great success with this 3-stage model when they are understanding where they're at. Okay. So that's what I want for you. I want you to understand when to use your therapist, when you don't need your therapist, when you do need your therapist, when to use your regulation strategies, what your limiting beliefs are, what you want to shift, and then you're going to integrate the changes, right? So you want to strengthen your parasympathetic nervous system when you have anxiety, right? And conversely, when you have depression, actually, you need to activate that sympathetic nervous system. And I'll talk more about that in presentation number 2 as well. Like I said, there's a lot of information. We're going to talk about it in different ways, and it's going to connect. So stick with what resonates. Okay, so when we talk about nervous system dysregulation, we're also talking about emotional dysregulation. So that looks like low self-esteem, impulsive behaviors, numbing, right? Or avoiding things, self-judgment, problem thinking, problem solving, like problems solved. You know what I'm saying? Problems solving problems, and then problems thinking, right? So those two are linked. Fear of abandonment, right? Anxiety about emotional dysregulation, like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. And then you get freaked out because you're freaking out. That can be common too. So this is what we're talking about, right? Your nervous system dysregulated, it leads to emotional dysregulation, okay? Who doesn't love the Hulk, right? Dysregulation. This is important. We can't talk about dysregulation without talking about anger, right? Anger problems are a common sign of a dysregulated nervous system. But if you've been really super depressed, this is just like a squirrel moment for you here. If you've been really depressed and you haven't had any emotion, and maybe you've been suppressing your emotion, sometimes what happens is when you're on the healing path, like some of my clients will get really, they'll start to have rage. And honestly, like, some of you need to get mad and some of you need to stop getting mad, and you know who you are, right? So for my clients that are like, whoa, they've been so depressed for so long, then they start to get, better. And then what they find is they'll like rage, they feel angry, right? And I'm like, well, you've probably been suppressing your anger for a long time, and here it is, howdy doody, right? Just a thought. You don't know me. For that, Brene Brown, your sisters. I just love that. It's so funny. Okay, so our brain becomes overwhelmed, right? And then we often do and say things we regret when we're angry. You don't know me, I don't do that. Stop it. Okay, so I love Brene Brown. She's an amazing researcher, and she's contributed so much. So she talks about chandeliering, and this is an indication of the dysregulation, right? And it's like, there was a radio show I was listening to one morning, and they were talking about things that make you mad. When you're already mad and then someone says something or does something and then you get madder. Sort of like maybe you're mad and then someone's like, hey, relax. Maybe I don't know what your word is or what your phrase is that makes it. And then you kind of get more mad, and then something happens and you get more mad, and then you sort of hop, hop, hop. And next thing you know, you're just like green, right? Hulk. So anyway, I love that slide. So this is a deeper slide again, and I want to remind you to give yourself, give yourself a chance to really look at this slide, as well as give yourself a chance to just digest what you can from it. And if you need to walk away, press pause and come back, okay? Because some of this is like, holy smokes, right? Because sometimes for our trauma survivors, the trauma is really rooted in childhood stuff, right? That we haven't looked at for a long time. And maybe we don't want to look at it, right? So it's okay to understand where it's from. You do need to understand that. Right? So this is the impact of trauma, right? There's a loss of safety. Absolutely, the world becomes a place where anything can happen, right? And as a result of trauma, right? My clients who have a lot of trauma in their early youth, they lose their danger cues, right? So how do you know what's dangerous when someone you trust hurts you? And that's normal, right? Danger cues are lost. And that loss of trust, right? Especially if you're being abused by a family member or a close family friend, okay? And then shame comes, right? Huge, overwhelming, debilitating shame. So, and that can follow in school, right? And it can follow you into adulthood, where maybe you can't bear to be in the wrong because the triggering shame that brings, right? So another side effect is a loss of intimacy, right? Especially for our survivors of sexual abuse trauma. Sexual relationships either become something to avoid, or you're entered in them in a transactional way, right? Again, not what intimacy is meant to be about. Dissociation, right? Super common. Trauma causes us to go into a trance. And often that dissociated trance, right? It comes because we can't cope with what's happening to the body. So we dissociate from what's happening in the body. And it becomes a coping strategy later in life, right? And with this dissociation, what can come is actually literally like a loss of connection to the body. And so this will happen for people, maybe for people who are overeating, right? Or under eating, like you've lost your hunger cues in your dissociative eating, okay? So that's where the somatic therapies, the more bodily sense therapies for trauma survivors come in, right? They help you to get back into your body, and they do actually focus on nervous system regulation rather than talk therapy, okay? Remember, I was saying trauma shatters your sense of self, right? We lose our sense of self when we've been through a lot of trauma. So, because one of the goals, right, of our life process and our path is to be our authentic self, right? And so when we're in traumatic situations, we learn that being who we are isn't safe, okay? And then with that, we lose our sense of self-worth. So trauma survivors, right, they can swing between grandiose beliefs and then feeling really bad about themselves, right? And then the up top there, we talk about reenactment, right? And this is where many of you might be, right? Where you're reenacting childhood dynamics, past patterns, trauma bosses you around, right? You're doing things, you're doing them, but you can't stop and you don't know why or how to get there, okay? So I promise you, if you just slow your roll and stop putting the cart before the horse, so many people want to focus on their stage 3 game, trauma game, healing game, without tightening up their stage 1 strategies, okay? So you'll say, oh, what are my stage 1 strategies, Vanessa? And I will absolutely dial into those with you, okay? I just want to point out here, people who experience trauma are 15 times more likely to commit suicide, okay? This is serious business. And this is why this is so important to me, right? Trauma, right? You're most likely smoking, job problems, depression, absent from work, antidepressants, injectable drugs, STDs, becoming an alcoholic, right? The impacts of trauma are so high. It is everywhere, It is everywhere. So again, I want you to consider being regulated or dysregulated as it applies to your own well-being, right? And take a moment to journal if you need to. Press pause if you need to. So here we go. We're going to get into some strategies. Okay, meditation is an obvious one. Who hasn't been told to meditate to heal their trauma, right? Mindfulness is another one. You can do mindfulness meditation, right? But mindfulness isn't necessarily meditation, though, you guys. Trauma takes us out of the present, into the past or the future. We're either like focused on what happened in the past or preventing it from happening in the future. So we're not mindful of the present moment. Mindfulness strategies are bringing us right into the moment. Okay. Breath work, right? Again, who hasn't heard about breath work? So the important thing to remember about breath work is don't hyperventilate. Okay. So when you're doing the breath work, I'll walk you through some of it in a moment here. Yoga. Yoga is a great thing to try. Yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, those sort of energy movement techniques, right? They're going to relax you. You can look into the concept of sleep hygiene. That's just the idea that, your bed is not for watching TV. It's not for reading if you're sleeping in sex, right? Before you go to bed, have a bedtime routine that mellows you out. Don't get yourself all worked up. There's a lot of different research that suggests that sleep hygiene is a big part of your successful sleep, right? But just know that trauma survivors struggle with sleep. It's normal, okay? Nutrition is another way, a good meal, focusing on your gut health. Those things are real as well, but I'm not a doctor, I'm a therapist, but I do know nutrition can be a big part for a lot of people, okay? Social connection, we have a social engagement nervous system, right? So social engagement, good social engagement does and is very helpful. Self-compassion, my goodness, the research around self-compassion is so amazing. And we're going to develop a self-compassion practice for you throughout the course of this 8 video series. Okay, so we'll do step 1 of the self-compassion practice again in a moment here. And of course, medication, right? Quick way to regulate your nervous system. If that's just what you want to do, get it done, one and done, take your pills. But remember, if your nervous system is habitually dysregulated, you'll just have to keep titrating your medication up because you're not changing the dysregulation in your nervous system. So then you're going to need more and more medication to keep on delivering. Okay. So fast ways to self-regulate. Remember, I talked about how you need to be able to self-regulate and you also can co-regulate, but self-regulation is necessary for adults, right? And for those of you who maybe have personality disorders, you struggle with self-regulation, okay? You desire the co-regulation, and that's often why you'll have those sex addictions too, right? Is because you're co-regulating through sex because you don't know how to self-regulate. And anyway, orgasm is a great way to engage your nervous system, your parasympathetic and your sympathetic at the same time, and it regulates your nervous system. But then the relational problems that come along with a sexual relationship that doesn't have a good relational foundation, I don't know, right? I know you know. You don't know me. Anyways, I don't know you. No, I don't. I'm just saying this happens for some people. Maybe you, maybe not. Okay. Okay, so fast ways to self-regulate. We all need to bump up our self-regulating game no matter who we are. Okay. So straw breathing. This is a technique that we use where we breathe out longer than we breathe in. Okay. So and then you're going to breathe out like you're blowing through a straw. And then see how you feel. Okay. So don't do those don't do it like it's an aggressive sport. Okay. Do it and see how you feel. Try it again. See how you feel. There's box breathing. Okay. So box breathing is you breathe in, hold, hold. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Okay, again, do a round of the box breathing. See how you feel. Okay, containment strategies. So containment strategies are where we're literally holding ourselves. So this can be a containment strategy, right? You're just hugging yourself. Some of my clients do under the armpit and across, like this is a containment strategy. Those work to regulate your nervous system quickly. Drawing in a good memory, if you've got a really great visual memory and you're good at conjuring up memories, it's one of my good ones, right? So I will do that. If I can, to shift myself through something, I'll remember something good and just try to really feel myself in that moment if I can. That's a good way to self-regulate. Gratitude is another way. Like if you can, feel grateful for something and truly feel that gratitude, not just tell yourself you need to be grateful. There's a difference, okay? Sitting in gratitude, even if it's just like, I'm so grateful for this moment, or the shade of this tree, or for these beautiful flowers I got from my mom's garden, like whatever it might be. Sit in a joyful state. Joy is hard. You might think, oh, Vanessa, these strategies are silly. Sitting in a joyful state, try it. Right? Try it. Try and sit in that joyful state and see where you get to. Because sometimes sitting in joy can bring up anxiety, right? So see what your relationship with joy is like. So the best thing you can do, right? You want to find the ones that suit you. That's the key. You find the ones that suit you best, okay? I like this. Yugen, a profound, mysterious sense of the beauty of the universe that triggers a deep emotional response. That is a self-regulation technique, right? Nature. You can actually self-regulate through nature, but some people would say maybe that you're co-regulating with nature. Arguable. Psychology is fun that way. We just talk and talk and talk about all these things. Aren't you lucky? So fast ways to co-regulate, right? Remember, I was saying we're social creatures, right? We have a social nervous system. The First Nations here in BC, they'll say, I see you, right? I see you. And that actually being seen and valued for your authentic self is a balm for your nervous system, right? There's a reason that developed. It was an important part of the mental health of the people, right? So 1 minute of anger, believe it or not, weakens your immune system for 4 to 5 hours, okay? We'll talk more about that in session 2. 1 minute of laughter boosts your immune system for 24 hours. Humor, co-regulate, okay? So talking to someone who gets you and laughing about what's going on, feeling supported and having a laugh, right? Fast ways to co-regulate. Animals, that's why people love their animals so much. Fast ways to co-regulate also nature. You can co-regulate out in nature, as I talked about. Hugs. Who doesn't love hugs? Walks with a good friend, right? Group activities. COVID's coming to a close in a lot of different places, so we're able to get together in groups again. Love it. Like I said, laughing with a friend is a really great way to regulate. So quick regulation skills. I want to leave you with the feeling that you can do this, right? We talked about the box breathing. We talked about the straw breathing, right? The containment strategies, right? And now what I want to do is just talk to you about the importance of having a self-compassion practice. Okay. So this is a slide for you on the breathing strategies, the straw and the box breathing. All right. This is another slide for you on the containment strategies. So there's a few more that you can try out. And there's an example of a grounding strategy where you're really feeling your feet on the floor, your bottom in the chair and your chair and your back being supported. Okay, so those are containment strategies for you. And we're going to talk about this idea of self-compassion, right? You want to cut yourself some slack. You want to stop taking people's opinions of you too serious. You want to ask for help. You want to notice what you're doing right. You want to reward yourself. Okay. So this is the exercise recommended by Dr. Kristen Neff, and she is the researcher behind the self-compassion. So she says, when you want to think of something that causing you pain and suffering, I would recommend, if you're going to do this, something small, right? And then you say the following while you're in a self-compassion posture. Okay, so that would be hands over the heart is her most recommended one. And then the language that she uses is, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment, okay? So there's the absolute quick hack self-compassion, right? But we took a webinar with Dr. Neff, and what she says is you really need to develop your own practice, which means you get your own gesture going, your own language going, and your own sort of vibe with it, okay? So that's what I want to help you do throughout this presentation. So I want to read you this poem first. You've never shamed the waves for not arriving on the ocean shore any sooner than they were meant to. And you've never looked above you to guilt the clouds for taking their time as they cross the noonday sky. You simply accept these clouds must travel in whatever pace they need to. Oh, what a difference it would make if you gave yourself this same grace. So that's what self-compassion is asking us to do, to stop pushing, okay? So we're going to try out different gestures together. Right? Oh, I'm too far forward. So we're going to try out the gestures. Maybe I'll stop the share for a minute. Okay. So self-compassion gestures. Absolutely hands on heart. Give it a go. See how you like it. How does it feel? Okay. Another one you can try is hands on your face, right? I sort of am hugging myself a little bit with my chicken wings here, with my elbows and my arms. I like this one. So the gestures are kind of a lot like the containment strategies, right? So Dr. Neff talks as well about the fierce self-compassion. So you can ball your fist and put your hand over it, and you can try that over your heart and see how that feels. That one's bumpy for me on my heart, but I do it down, unball this here on my solar plexus, and that actually feels really supportive. So gesture, fist, hand, solar plexus. I'm sorry you guys can't see there. Okay, try that and see how it feels. You can simply try just holding your hands together, clasping them. How does that feel? You can try behind the neck. This one has the double whammy that you're also sort of pressing on your vagus nerve, which is a down regulation. And then you can also try your forehead, maybe. How does that feel? Maybe it's supportive to do. One of my friends likes just a hand on the shoulder. Try that. What feels easy, what feels supportive. So you might use different gestures at different times as well, but that would be something that I would encourage you to work on as we develop our self-compassion practice, right? So again, you could stop here and check in. How was that experience? Did you find a gesture? Was there one that you really liked? Was there one you didn't like, right? Was there one that was like, not gonna happen? Okay. So the main takeaways from our stage 1 presentation, the two of them, right? Understanding trauma, understanding nervous system dysregulation, the concept of the parasympathetic nervous system, the concept of the sympathetic nervous system, that they talk to all of your organs, right? And then I want to encourage you to just explore different ways to regulate, see how it goes. And you want to just, try to apply strategies daily. Small changes add up to big changes over time. Go slower to go further, okay? So I just quickly want to talk about how being dysregulated can impact therapy, right? When you are dysregulated, it's very difficult to engage in those deeper therapy processes. A dysregulated nervous system impacts our ability to self-reflect, okay? So limiting beliefs kick in when we're dysregulated. So we're going to talk more about that in the next session. But that's what we're up against as therapists when someone is very dysregulated in their nervous system. Those limiting beliefs are what we want to shift with therapy. And they can be a lot easier to shift when you have those regulation strategies. So don't lose your present to your past. Okay. Therapy is more successful when you're prepared, when you understand these different stages and you can actually speak to the therapist about, I have these grounding strategies that I use, and these are the belief systems and the things that I think I need to change. Or maybe I'm ready for a little more targeted intervention around this one experience that is something I'm really, really ready to process. Okay. So healing doesn't mean the damage never existed, right? It means the damage no longer controls our lives. So that's where I like the idea of the trauma boss, right? Like, you can absolutely be the one in control again. The trauma does not have to be your boss. So therapy, right? It can be like going to the gym to get fit, right? Not everybody needs to go to the gym to get fit. I show you my muscles. I don't go to the gym. So, but some people do. They need to go to the gym, right? So session 2, we'll talk about the way dysregulation impacts our daily life, right? And so what I'm saying is some people don't actually need aggressive therapy. They just have really great insight and good friends to talk to. And once they understand what they're doing, they do maybe healing workshops or getaways or whatever. Or maybe they just have therapy every now and again, right? You absolutely you probably shouldn't be in therapy for your whole life. Like, if you're in therapy for years and years, maybe you need to take a break, because you're supposed to be making changes and integrating the changes. Okay? So in session 3, we focus on neuroplasticity, which is where where those changes that we're making in the way that we think are really solidified and integrated into our life. And session 4, parts 1 and 2, right, are where we're going to assess that stage of healing for therapy. And we're going to look at the workbook. If you're keen to, you bring your workbook for those last 2 sessions. Okay. So what I want to stress is how dysregulation impacts you, right? It's physical, your body, emotional, your feelings, right? And then cognitively, your thoughts. So this is why dysregulation leads to physical and mental health problems. So it takes patience and persistence, right? You want to start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. But just know you absolutely can do this. It takes time to heal from trauma, and there are steps to take. And I can absolutely help you with those steps. So stage 2 healing is our next presentation, and part 1 of stage 2 is the next video, right? So just sending love to everyone who's trying their best to heal from things that they don't discuss, right? Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video where we're going to talk about stage 2 of healing from your trauma.